Okay, my traditional name is Comet, and I'm from the Tlauquat First Nation. And I spell my name Kaamat, what we call a back H, Comet. Okay? Or my English name is Levi Martin. Yeah, right now I teach language, teach a culture, and I also do some traditional healing and like more like spiritual leader of our community. Well, what I value most about what I do is it's a lot about healing, healing our, like, the experiences that we've had with residential school, the government, and the churches. Well, with my cultural practices, like, the spiritual ceremonies that we do, we have the ability to connect with our ancestors. Like we say, we are the connection to the past, the present, and the future. Like, our children, grandchildren, what we call the future ancestors. Well, in our culture, like, it's really important to practice what we call Isak. Isak is about honor and respect. So we honor and respect each other. We honor and respect everything that there is, everything that the Creator provided us. Well, the spiritual ceremonies that I do every morning when I wake up. Every morning when I wake up, and I say this prayer that my father taught me. And in our language it says, Tanas ea pisat hawitmis hawet. And I say that prayer 4 times. Tanas ea pisat hawitmis hawet. Tanas ea pisat hawitmis hawet. Tanas ea pisat hawitmis hawet. And in English it means, Creator, let all good things just naturally drift towards me. So after I've said it the 4th time, then I open myself up to receive the gifts that I need just for today. And then there's other ceremonies that I do right after that. I mean, they're short but powerful ceremonies. Are traditional ways that, like we always say in our language, in our culture, Hishuk Nitzawak, we are all one. And Hishuk Istsawak, Hishuk Nitzawak, we are all one. Hishuk Istsawak means everything is one. And Tzawak Squinish says we come from one, so we are all one. For indigenous people, like the healing, that's the most important thing, I guess. That's what we are working on now, and the healing that'll come to our people through the teachings and the practices, spiritual ceremonies, and letting go of the pain that we experienced. And I guess for the non-indigenous people, one thing I've really noticed that I've become aware of, like, humanity has a superiority complex. They're better than, more important than, like, in our culture, like everything is equal and very important, no matter what, like, and everything that we do is valuable. Well, our people have done a lot of healing. Like, I've traveled the world. I've been involved with international healing conferences throughout the world. Like, I've been to New Zealand, Australia, Cusco, Peru, and Mexico, Hawaii. Like, every 4 years they have these indigenous gathering from all over the world. And we talk about the healing and the practices. And so, like for the past, I don't know, 20 years, like, there's been indigenous people that have gathered. Now I would like to see the non-indigenous people begin to gather and to do the work that they need to do, because what they did to us in residential school is still happening. Like, like we were taken away from our parents for residential school, sent to residential school. Now today the government is still taking our children away and putting them into foster homes, non-native foster homes, and they're still teaching them, like, the assimilation that they practiced. So now I feel like, it's really important for the indigenous or non-indigenous people to begin to do their healing. Like, and the church needs to do a lot of healing. Like, I went to a Catholic residential school, and like, I don't know. Well, I guess you've heard about the things that happen in a residential school, like, the beatings and the abuse that our people suffered, like, So, so the Catholic Church and the government, they need to do their own healing too as well. When, like, I worked for, what do they call it? Residential School Healing Project. And I did some research while I was working for this Residential School Healing Project. And one of the things that I discovered about the Catholic Church doing it, like, the Catholic Church, like, we, in 1400s, 1450, 1492, when Christopher Columbus came over, the Catholic Church and the government, they created a document. It's called a document of discovery. And that document is a discovery, like, when they came over here and they found indigenous people on this land. They wanted the land, they wanted the resources. So they declared Indians, they called them Indians. They said Indians were less than human. They didn't have a soul, they didn't have a spirit. And because they were less than Indians, didn't have a soul and didn't have a spirit, the Catholic Church and the government had the right to take all the land and all the resources that they wanted, like, And that document is still in place today. They've never rescinded that document. And the thing about that was, like, in that document they declare that the Catholic Church, everyone that they baptize, they own the soul of that person that was baptized. So if you were baptized, the Catholic Church declares they own your soul. In the government, they said everyone that gets a birth certificate, they own their body. So the church and the government, they own our soul and our body. So I think that is one of the biggest changes that needs to happen today. So when the Pope is here, I hope that that they will bring that up. My healing journey began in 1981, going into a sweat lodge, and this was things that I hadn't experienced before. The sweat lodge, sweet grass, sage. That was not in our culture. So anyway, I experienced the sweat lodge and the sweet grass and the sage, and I began to get messages. The teachings that I got when I was a little kid started coming back, being in a sweat lodge. I could hear my ancestors, and the one message that I got was I needed to go back home to work with our people, to reconnect them to the land, So 1981 and 1982, I prepared myself to come back home. I did a lot of spiritual ceremonies, going to the river, going into the forest, going up to the mountain, connecting to the ancestors, to the Creator, preparing myself. Took me a whole year, because going back home was not where I wanted to go. There was, a lot of abuse, a lot of drinking. We had murder in the community, but it was like I say, it wasn't a place I wanted to go back to. But the message I got was I needed to go back home and work with the people, reconnecting to the land. And after a year preparing myself, I went back home. I went over to visit. I didn't have a house to live in then, but I went and I stayed with my sister, and I started working with the people right away, doing volunteer work, starting community dinners and gatherings where people could gather and just enjoy each other's company without drinking, And I tried to get our elders involved. I put up a dinner for our elders, and I asked them if they would teach us some songs and dances. They said they would, but then when the time came, it didn't happen. It didn't show up. So I invited the elders one at a time for dinner, and I asked them, would you like to record a song or a few songs that you're comfortable with recording, and we'll teach the kids those songs. So they did, and I started working with the children. The 4, 5, 6, I guess the oldest one was probably 11 at the time. Started teaching them songs and dances. And we tried to get the adults involved, but they weren't interested. So after a year teaching the children songs and dances, when I felt like it was time, they were ready. They learned 12 songs. I said, okay, we're going to have a dinner, we're going to have a feast, a community feast. So I went to my brother and I said, we're going to have a feast. Can you get us some fish? And he said, yeah. And he went out that next morning. He brought back 11 halibut. I took the halibut, I went to the houses, and I said, we're going to have a feast. Would you mind cooking this for us? And everyone else said, yeah, sure. So they cooked the halibut and everything that went with it, potatoes, vegetables. Like, no. We had our feast. After the feast, then got the children up to sing and dance. And they did really fantastic. They sang and they danced. And that was when the adults started getting interested in learning the songs and the dances. But a month later, they started coming in. They'd stand by the door. They wouldn't join us. They'd stand by the door and that they listened. But a week or two later, then they came and they sat with us. And they started learning. And I can still hear them today saying, I didn't know I could sing. I didn't know I could sing like this, like, you know. So ever since then, like, things started getting better, like, you know. Things started changing. People started going on their healing journey, going to treatment centers, learning their songs and their dances. I remember prior to that, we went to a potlatch. We had one elder that got up and he sang a song. And there was about 10 of us men standing with him. We didn't know the song, so we couldn't sing. So he sang all by himself. But when we were going back to our seats, I could hear a lady saying, "Squeak in a corner, squeak in a corner." So I said, okay, we're going to learn some songs. We're going to learn. And that's what happened. They learned some songs and dances, and now that, you know, today they're really powerful singers and dancers, like, you know, they're amazing. Yeah, like it's, there's a couple of words that I would like to share. In our teachings, in our language, we say, Yuts ha piat. Yuts ha piat says, always be careful about what you do and what you say. And if you're always careful about what you do and what you say, then you will be chamapit. Chamapit means you will be able to stand up with honor, dignity, love, and humility. The two words chamapit or yutshapiat, always be careful about what you do and what you say. If you're careful about what you do and what you say, then you will be chamapit. Chamapit says you will be able to stand up with honor, dignity, love, humility.